Welcome to Erasmus Plus project, Include3 Pathways Towards Inclusion. Transitions from sheltered employment for people with intellectual disabilities into the regular labour market. Curriculum for Collaborative Inclusive Learning, the Include3 Method Unit 9. Reflection of Integration Process and Stress Coping. In this unit, you will learn how to guide people with cognitive disabilities to reflect on work experiences and learn effective stress coping techniques. This is a practical unit. Coping strategies and resilience training must be exercised, preferably in a situation of good mood and with no stress. Therefore, you will find some useful best practice in the didactical resources. The learning objectives of this unit are: 1. The participants, counsellors, understand the concept of stress and reflection and can explain it to their clients. 2. Participants will be able to apply reflection questions for clients and identify stress symptoms. 3. Participants will be able to guide their clients to use coping strategies. Coping can prevent premature termination of internships and employment relationships due to excessive stress. Conflicts in the company can also lead to dissatisfaction of employees or superiors, and thus a return to the workshop. Regular reflections can help to identify stress and conflicts as well as dissatisfaction at an early stage and to find out more about the own needs of the person with disabilities. They form the basis for subsequent discussions with companies and finding solutions and prepare an empowering participation of people with disabilities. However, it is not a matter of preventing the termination of the internship or employment relationship by all means. Within the framework of the participation and self-determination of people with disabilities, various solutions are to be developed. On the one hand, people with disabilities should learn to cope with stressful situations with coping strategies, and on the other hand, to accept their own needs and to leave the company empowered by any internship or job changes. What is stress? Stress is a physical and mental reaction to stimulus events that bother one's balance and demand or exceed coping mechanisms. In everyday work, it can, for example, arise from time pressure, uncertainties, or complex tasks. These are the so-called stressors. Stressors require an adaptation response from the person after they have cognitively assessed the stressor on the one hand and their resources for coping with it on the other. Changes in life can also lead to an individual experiencing stress. A distinction is made between acute stress, which is temporary and whose beginning and end can be clearly defined, and chronic stress, which lasts for a longer period and in which the individual perceives the demands to be greater than the resources available to them. Stress coping means to deal with stress. Coping includes behavioral and mental reactions that are undertaken to counter the stressor. Stress manifests itself, for instance, through symptoms such as a rapid heartbeat, increased blood pressure, sweating or muscle tension, restlessness, irritability, difficulty concentrating, or exhaustion. Stress reactions can be divided into 4 types. 1. Physical stress reactions, changes in physical processes, for example, rapid heartbeat, sweating. 2. Cognitive stress reactions, changes in attention, thinking, and memory performance, for example, inattention, concentration problems. 3. Emotional stress reactions, changes in emotions, for example, anger, inner restlessness, and anxiety. 4. Behavioral stress reactions, changes in behavior, for example, working late, nail biting. These subdivisions are important for your work with the client, as they enable you to recognize stress. For example, if your client cannot directly express that he or she is feeling stressed. To get a better feeling for the personal reactions to stress, there is a questionnaire for the symptoms of stress. These subdivisions are important for your work with the client, as they enable you to recognize stress. For example, if your client cannot directly express that he or she is feeling stressed. What is reflection? Reflection involves scrutinizing and comparing thoughts about something. After making a realization, you look at how you are doing with this realization. Reflection is a mental process in which one refers to oneself. Reflection is the conscious process of reflecting on one's own experiences and actions. It helps to gain insights, strengthen self-confidence, and improve future decisions. In everyday work, reflection can make people better assess whether a task fits their abilities, and they learn to recognize and overcome successes and challenges. This leads to better adaptability and a positive attitude towards new tasks. The counselor can support the reflection by mirroring observations and verbalizing the client's emotions. The counselor can also support the reflection with interpretative information and thus categorize new experiences. Interpretive information help, for example, in coping with resolutions and clarifying the causes of failures. Conflicts in the company are situations in which differences of opinion or tensions arise between employees. They can arise from different expectations, misunderstandings, or unfair distribution of tasks. Such conflicts can cause stress and affect the working atmosphere if they are not resolved constructively. Conflicts don't always have to be negative. If approached in a respectful and constructive way, they can lead to improvements in the working environment and strengthen understanding between employees. How can you take up this knowledge in your consulting practice? In practice, you should encourage your clients to answer questions about the internship or workplace, such as, "What do I like about this job? What are my strengths in this job? Do I feel comfortable here?" These questions promote self-awareness and help to find out whether the employment is suitable in the long term. How can I guide people to cope with stress? The first step is to find stress factors in everyday work and life. There are many sources of stress, and the better your client knows them, the easier they can cope with them. Stress coping is essential to counteract stress. Guide your clients to recognize stress by teaching them to pay attention to physical signals such as rapid breathing or tension. Show simple exercises. 1. Deep breathing, where you breathe in and out consciously. 2. Count to 10. 3. Progressive muscle relaxation. And 4. Short, relaxing walks. On the long run, it is important to notice the emerging stress and to prevent stressing situations. For the dealing with stress, it is important to keep some strategies in mind. You will find inspiration in the chart Dealing with Stress. Positive thinking is one possibility. It is an important skill for dealing with stress. Positive thinking describes the conscious decision to focus on solution-oriented and encouraging thoughts, even in difficult situations. Instead of focusing on the negative or unchangeable, your client shall recognize good and positive things or situations. This approach influences how we perceive challenges. An optimistic attitude can mitigate the body's stress response because it reduces the release of stress hormones such as cortisol. People who think positively tend to be more resilient and can process setbacks more quickly. A central aspect of positive thinking is reframing. Here, stressful thoughts are questioned and replaced by realistic but optimistic perspectives. Instead of thinking, "I'll never make it," the thought might be, "I'm going to do my best and learn in the process." To focus on the optimistic perspective in stressing situations, can it be helpful to remind happy moments in the past? You can remind your client with a little gadget or a keychain, i.e., a four-leaved clover or a ladybug. Use our corresponding learning material to practice these techniques together with your clients. The instructions contain step-by-step descriptions that enable clear implementation in practice and help to reduce stress in the long term. In summary, support your clients in regularly reflecting on their experiences and using appropriate stress coping strategies. Encourage reflection processes in the counseling sessions and also make possible problems in the company the content of the counseling process in order to identify dropout tendencies at an early stage. These approaches help to develop a positive attitude towards new challenges and promote well-being. Thank you for taking the time to go through this unit. Your work is crucial for accompanying your clients on their way into the general labour market. Good luck with the application.